All right. Pardon the background noise. Family's watching TV while we're corona-fied here. But I did want to at least go through the hand that you showed. And I know you didn't ask for this, but this is just the kind of thing that I like to do when sharing, is show you guys how I'm ranging hands. It helps me stay on top of my game better. And I think that it's going to help somebody out there, maybe not you specifically, but somebody out there, understand a concept a little bit better. When you're talking about somebody over here opens the pot with a raise. That typically tells us it's, a top hand, or at least something that's going to have the top and the bottom of a guy's range in it, and not a lot of the middle stuff. Actually, people should be opening pots. They shouldn't be limping in to start. They should be opening the pot for a raise. But when this guy over here raises, and then you call, that also indicates some kind of a raise. It wasn't good enough to re-raise, but it was better than a hand that you would fold. So that also lets somebody start putting you on a range of cards, and then they can start choosing their cards that attack that range depending on the way the board comes out. Or at least it's more of an advanced thought process, but it's what we want to get to. This guy here, when he sees a raise and a call, he's kind of targeting this guy over here with his re-raise, because he realizes that this puts a lot of pressure on this guy here, a re-raise. If this guy was raising kind of just to steal blinds or kind of whatever with the bottom part of his opening range, pair of threes, ace four suited, 6-7 suited, stuff like that, he can't really call and get into a huge pot when there's a guy in the middle here that could call and make it a three-way pot, or could even raise by being tricky down the road. So it puts a lot of pressure on this guy, and he knows that your range, by calling and not re-raising yourself, is also weaker. It's something in the middle, queen jack suited, pocket eights, stuff like that, and he knows that he can represent a big pair, or ace king, ace queen, something like that, and really put the heat on you. So he's putting the heat on both of you guys, and he's trying to pick up the dead money in the pot if he knows what he's doing. He may just be the type of player, and that's why it's important to have a read on the guy, he may just be the type of player that sees his card, goes, "Ooh, ace king, that's a great card, I raise again." You need to know which kind of guy it is, because that's going to affect what you do. If it's the kind of guy you don't have any reads on the guy, it's the kind of guy that only does it with jacks or ace king or something like that, you're in a lot of trouble with a hand like king queen, because as I explained with implied odds, you flop that same kicker sometimes and you're screwed, and it's going to get very expensive before you figure it out and give up on the hand, and you have very little way to catch up to the guy when you're second best. So let's walk through this and let's see what kind of hands this guy can have. And I'll talk about both types of player, the kind of guy who really only plays straight up, and the kind of guy who also plays kind of a polarized range with the very top and the very bottom of his range, which is really the kind of player that we would like to be, because it indicates it makes you harder to read. I would open up a program like Flopzilla if you have it, or Poker Stove works too. Poker Stove is free. And when that situation opens up, we can start assessing ranges. Okay, we know that we have King Queen, which is King of Hearts, Queen of Diamonds. So we can make those two cards dead. And we know that his range, we don't know what his range is, right? If we assume that it's one of these tighter guys, and it's probably, even this is a little bit too much. He's not probably going to, a raiser and a caller, he's probably not going to re-raise if he's a straightforward player. Probably not even ace-10. Maybe ace-jack, ace-queen. I doubt he would do it with king-queen, but we could put that in there. King-queen, or kings, queens, aces, stuff like this is going to be in this guy's range, right? That is a, 5.4% raising range? And if I put that into some kind of an equity calculator, it shows I've only got 30% equity against this entire range of cards. Okay, I'm going to lose this hand 60 to 70% of the time, right? That's not good. We don't want to get into these spots. Now, if I open up his range a little bit more, and I include some of the junky hands, let's say this guy has been really aggressive at the table, we can assume that he's going to play maybe a little bit wider open than some others. Maybe some of these suited connectors, maybe some more of these pocket pairs. He might even squeeze light with something like pocket threes, pocket fours, something like this, some of these weaker suited connectors, because he knows these are underneath your range. He's not gonna get into a reverse implied odds situation. He's going to be not sharing cards with you unless you both flop the ace, in which case you probably would have re-raised that hand yourself had you had one of these. So he's probably even okay with one of those, because if he has an ace in his hand, it's less likely you have one in yours. So this is the type of range he's going to start showing up with. Maybe a little bigger than this, maybe a little smaller than this, who knows. But if he is somebody who's thinking and trying to make himself a tricky player to read, he's going to show up in the hand like this. And you can see you're still behind in this 60-40 when you call with king queen, which is why I would just kind of toss that hand in that situation. That's the kind of hand, yeah, I can call a raise in position like you did, but it really can't handle a re-raise, because it's going to get into a sticky situation where you don't know, is that guy sitting there with 5-6 suited and that king high flop hits and he starts betting like a mofo because he's representing ace king trying to fool you. You're going to go 2 streets or whatever and then eventually give up if he barrels into you 3 different times, and you're going to give up when you maybe had the best hand, or you're going to call it all the way down maybe for your stack and find out he had ace king the whole time. You're not going to know. It's going to be very, very hard. So these are the types of situations that I would avoid. There are hands that can handle re-raises. Like I said, some of these down in here, if stacks are deep enough and you've got the kind of odds that if your hand hits and he has, say, pocket aces and the flop comes out 6-7 jack, then you're going to go nuts on the guy with 2 pair. You flop trip sixes, something like that, you're going to go nuts on the guy, and his aces are going to come along because he's not scared. There's only a jack on the board, and then he's going to wake up to find he was crushed. And it's going to get very, very expensive, which means it pays off the risk that you take in getting into that situation. But when the situation is where you are way up close to the top end of his range, but you're just down in here, king jack, king 10, king queen, ace jack type situations, you're hosed, man. If you guys share that card that flops as top pair, it's going to take a long time for you to figure it out, and it's going to take a lot of your stack. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense in terms of reverse implied odds, getting into those situations, and then calling a raise and then calling a re-raise, and kind of shows you maybe what those guys were trying to do, but also shows you how to react accordingly, and just straight up by the math, why it's probably not an advantageous situation to get in the first place. So that would be my advice in that third hand, is with king queen, probably not. With 6-5 suited, pocket fours, whatever, sure, maybe take a shot at the guy, because you're either going to flop a hand or you're not. You're not going to get stuck in some marginal situation where you really don't know how strong your hand really is and convince yourself to keep calling the guy when you're second best the whole time and just screwing yourself. So anyway, hopefully that helps. And we'll move on. Keep sharing hands, man. That's great. When you can share hands and we can kind of walk through them and stuff, that's when we really start learning, and that's when it gets fun. All right. We'll see you later.